Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. So this is my beginner's guide for the new DJI Neo 2. In this video we're going to go over everything you need to know to help you prepare for your very first flight. The Neo is an extremely versatile drone. It can be flown completely autonomously without a controller. It can take off and land right in the palm of your hand. You can also utilize a smartphone to launch some of the intelligent flight features. And you can also use your smartphone to fly it like a more traditional drone with virtual joysticks. You can also connect it to a traditional controller, again giving you a more traditional drone flight. And on top of that, you can even fly it FPV style with goggles and an FPV controller. So it is an extremely versatile drone, and we're going to cover a lot of topics in this video. Now, we're going to save FPV flight for a separate video because there is a lot to that. So if you did buy the kit with the FPV goggles, or you do plan on purchasing the FPV goggles, stay tuned for that. Hopefully we'll have that up in about a week or so. Now, there's many different packages available for purchase. So before we get too far into things, let's talk about some of the different packages in case you are going to be purchasing one, you haven't purchased one yet. The first package is basically just the drone only. You're going to get the drone, the aircraft. It's going to come with one battery. You're going to get 2 spare propellers with it. You're going to get a screwdriver to change the props, and you're going to get a charging and data cable. In this mode, it's basically for flying autonomously, or you can connect it to your smartphone and fly it with the virtual joysticks. Now, they also have another combo, and it's called the Fly More combo. Again, it's going to come with everything that we just talked about, but on top of that, you're going to get 2 spare batteries and a charging hub. Now, this is a package I do recommend. Having those extra batteries can be really important. Now, you'll be able to purchase extra batteries at any time. So if you just start with the base package, you will be able to add additional batteries, even the charging hub later on down the road. Now, another package you'll be able to purchase actually comes with a controller as well. This is the RC3 controller. And with it, you get everything we talked about: the drone, some spare props, data cable, and a screwdriver. But on top of that, you do get the controller. And you also get this transmission module, and we're going to talk a little bit about this as we go along in the video. Essentially, this just connects to the back of the drone, so it's able to connect to the controllers. On top of that, they also have this in a Fly More combo, where you get everything we just talked about, plus the charging hub, and again, 2 extra batteries. Now, additionally, they have something called a motion combo or FPV combo, and with it, you're going to get a set of goggles and this motion controller. Now, as mentioned, we're not going to get into FPV in this video, but if you do plan on purchasing the FPV combo, make sure you're subscribed, as I will be making a full video about it coming up soon. So let's go ahead here. We're going to take a look around the equipment. At the front of the drone here, we have a gimbal cover, and we can just press on that bottom part there, and that allows us to remove it. It's a good idea to have that installed when you have this in a camera bag. That will help protect the gimbal from being damaged. You can see on this drone, the props are completely enclosed for safety because, again, this drone does take off and land in the palm of your hand. But they can be removed. They are removable. And you may want to do that if you want to get some extra battery time, or perhaps you want to make the drone a little bit more agile. But as a beginner, I would recommend leaving them on. At the top here, when you purchase it, it's going to have one battery already pre-installed. And to remove it, there's 2 buttons on either side of the battery. We just press them in and pull the battery out. To reinsert the battery, you just put the back of the battery in first, line it up, just kind of like that there, and then just press down. On the back of the drone, we have a USB-C port that can be used for transferring data. We can also use that port to charge the battery when it's installed in the drone. That's also how we connect this transmission module, which we'll take a look at here in a second. Now, moving around the drone, we have various sensors because the Neo 2 does have obstacle avoidance. So we have one here at the top, we have a couple there at the bottom, we have some sensors over here at the side, and we actually have an LCD screen here on this side. And we'll take a look at that here when we power the drone on. Essentially, when using it autonomously, that allows us to see exactly what our filming parameters are. At the top here, we have a power button. When the drone is powered off, we can just do a quick single press on it, and that's going to show us how much power is in the battery. And on the side here is our flight controls when using it autonomously. We have the launch button, which is red, has that red mark on it. And we have 2 selector buttons. We have a frontwards and a backwards. So we can use that to cycle through the different flight modes. But we can also use that to change some of the flight parameters, such as the height and distance. And I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Now, this transmission module only really needs to be attached when you're going to be using it with something like the RCN3 controller or even the FPV motion controller. When flying autonomously, you do not have to have this installed, and you don't have to have it installed to connect to your smartphone if you're flying it with a smartphone. This essentially is just for when you're connecting to controllers. Now, you can still use the drone completely autonomously when you do have it installed. It's not going to affect it at all. If you've purchased the drone with a controller, this is already going to be pre-installed. But if you do need to install it or remove it, it's as simple as plugging in the USB-C connector there at the back of the module, right into the back of the drone. And then we're just going to take our screwdriver that was included and tighten up the screws. There's 4 screws there that need to be tightened in. And removing it would be exactly the same way. You would just loosen off the 4 screws and then unplug it from the USB-C port. And those screws are kind of held in with some kind of mechanism, so you don't have to worry about losing the screws if you take that off out in the field. As you see, they won't come out. Now, just a quick basic rundown of the controller here if you've purchased the kit with the controller. As you can see here, our sticks are stored in the bottom. And it's a good idea when transporting this in a camera bag, make sure you take these off just so you don't damage the gimbals. And they just screw in, and it doesn't matter what side you put them on as they are identical. If we take a look at the controller here, we've got some buttons on the front. This is our power button, and to power on the controller, it uses a double press, a quick press, and then a long press. Quick press, and then long press. To power it off, it's the exact same thing. Quick press, and then a long press. Now, at any given time when the controller's powered off, you can just do a single press on it. It's going to light up these lights here so you know how much power is left in the battery. Beside that, we have our mode selector. We have cine mode, normal mode, and sport mode. That's basically your flight speed. Sport mode being the fastest. You just have to be careful because when flying in sport mode, the obstacle avoidance is disabled. Normal mode is just like it sounds, it's kind of like a normal speed everyday flight. And then cine mode kind of slows everything down, slows all the inputs and movements down. That can allow you to get a little bit more cinematic footage. Beside that, we have a return to home and a pause or break button. You can press that to return the drone home to you. You can also use that to pause the activity, whatever the drone is doing. Over here, we have a function button. That's a shortcut to different tasks. On this side, we have a button that will flip back and forth between video mode and photo mode. If we take a look at the top of the controller here we have a shutter button. Now, depending on what mode you're in, that'll either start and stop recording or take a photo. And then on this side here, we have a gimbal control wheel. So that will tilt the camera down and up depending on what you're filming. Now, to mount a smartphone in it, we just have to pull out the antenna. And you're going to notice that there is a cable pre-installed in there. By default, it's going to have a USB-C end attached to it. So if you're going to be connecting to a newer iPhone or Android device, you're going to use that cable. But the package is also going to come with a USB-C to Lightning. So if you're going to be using anything like an iPhone 14 or lower, you would use this cable. And they're pretty easy to change out. You just unplug it from the USB-C port that's located inside there. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then you would just plug in the appropriate cable. And to mount our smartphone, we just slide it into the top there, into those grooves. Just like that. And then we attach the data cable. Now, we do have to download the DJI Fly app, which we're going to talk a little bit about here in a minute. And we need the Fly app in order to fly it with the controller, or if we just want to fly the Neo independently, just with our smartphone. The Fly app allows us also to adjust all our settings. It can give us a visual preview of what the drone sees. And it's a nice simple way to manage your content and update firmware. Now we're going to talk about memory, storage, and how to charge the devices up. Traditional drones have a memory card slot, but the Neo 2 does not have a memory card slot. It only uses built-in memory. I think it's like 48 or 49 gigabytes worth of storage. And we're going to talk about how to access all that data later on in this video. So with the Neo 2, you do not need to purchase a memory card. Now to charge the drone up, there's 2 different ways in which we can do it. Depending on what package you have, we may use the charging hub, or you can use the drone itself. Now I'm going to remove this battery and install it in the charging hub. And installing it's the same way as installing it into the drone. You just want to line up that groove at the bottom of the battery, place it in first, just so it's kind of like that, and then just press it down in. When the batteries are installed, at any time you can press on any of these batteries, and it'll show you how much power is in them. Or we can press this button here at the side. And as you can see, it'll illuminate all of them, showing us how much power is in it. Now this can also be used as a power bank. So if you're out filming and your smartphone is getting a little bit low, you can plug it into the USB-C port here on the side, and that'll charge up your smartphone or any other device that can be charged by USB-C. Now these batteries are kind of small, so you're not going to get a lot of charge out of them, but it can save you in a pinch. Now when it comes to charging, you're going to notice that it did not come with any type of charging brick. Most devices don't include them nowadays. We did get a charging cable, but you will have to provide your own charger. Now most of us have them laying around because they come with things like tablets and smartphones. Any type of USB-C charger will be compatible. Now ideally, I would recommend at least a 30 watt or even better yet, a 45 watt charger. Myself, I use 65 watt chargers. DJI sells a few on their website, and of course you can purchase third-party ones, like this one here is by Anker. This is a 65 watt charger, and the DJI one is a 65 watt charger as well. And to charge up the batteries, all you simply have to do is plug in the USB-C cable. It doesn't have to be the one that came with the drone. If you have a charger with a built-in USB-C cable, you can definitely use it. It's going to be reading the power of each battery, and it's going to automatically start charging them up. You can see now that one is started, and now that one is started as well. So it is actually charging all three at the same time, and that's because I'm using a 65 watt charger. If you're using a low wattage charger, it may only do 2 batteries at once, or perhaps even 1 battery at once. So it is beneficial to make sure you have a nice high wattage charger. Now to remove the batteries from the charging hub, we don't actually have to press those buttons there. All we have to do is grab from the top there and pull it out. These release buttons are only really used when it's installed in the drone. Now the other way to charge the battery is by charging it right within the drone, and this is how you'll be charging it if you didn't purchase a kit that came with the charging hub. Again, we're just going to use the USB-C port on the back, and just like before, we can just do a single press there on the power button, and that's going to show us how much power is in the battery. We'll take our charging cable and we'll plug it directly into the USB-C port. These lights here will light up and it'll show us the charging progress. And you can still charge using this method even if you have the transmission module installed. You'll see there, I'll just plug it in at the back there. The transmission module also has a USB-C port at the bottom, kind of a pass-through charger. So we can plug our power cable into it. And you'll notice there, it'll go ahead and start charging as well. If you've purchased a kit with a controller, we're just going to use the USB-C port at the bottom there, plug it in. And again, these LED lights will light up to let us know the charging progress. So we've taken a look at the hardware, but before we can use the DJI Neo 2, we need to activate it and we need to update the firmware. And the best way to do it is just by using the DJI Fly app installed on your smartphone. Now mine's already been activated and updated, but I'll just overlay some footage of when I did mine so you can see what I'm talking about. You're going to need to download the DJI Fly app from the Apple App Store to search for DJI Fly. I do believe on Android it has to be downloaded directly from the DJI website, and we can go ahead and launch it. You can see the main DJI page comes up. From here, if you don't have a DJI account already, you will have to create one and log in. And then what we're going to do is power on our Neo, and to power it on, it's the same way as the controller. It's a double press, a quick press, and a long press. Quick press, and then long press. You're going to see the props turn there a little bit, and you're going to hear that welcome chime. And just while we're talking about it, to power it off, it's the exact same thing. Quick press, and then long press. But we'll go ahead and we'll turn it back on here. And what you're going to notice right away when you do power it on is the DJI Fly app is going to detect the Neo 2. You can see it says new DJI Neo 2 detected. So we can tap on that. It's showing us the Neo 2. Again, I'm going to tap on that. So it's going to ask us to press and hold the power button for 3 seconds. And there we go. Once we've done that, it's going to ask us to join the Wi-Fi of the Neo 2. So we'll tap on connect. Once it's made the connection, you're going to get a screen where it's going to ask you to activate the equipment. You just have to press on activate. You just have to make sure you're logged into your DJI account, and it will go ahead and activate your Neo 2. Once it's been activated, a dialog box should pop up prompting you to download the latest firmware. All you have to do is hit download, and it will go ahead and download it and install it. It could take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes depending on the size and your internet speed. Now the drone may restart several times during the firmware update, but you will get a confirmation on the screen once the firmware has been updated successfully. Now, if you've purchased the kit with the controller, it's a good idea to do that procedure while the phone is mounted in the controller. You would do the exact same procedure, download the DJI Fly app, set up an account if needed, power on the drone. The drone will automatically connect to the controller if you've purchased them together. It'll prompt you to activate, and again, once it's activated, it'll prompt you to download the firmware. And the reason why that can be important is that there's going to be firmware that needs to be installed for the controller as well. So it's a good idea to activate it and update it via the controller if you've purchased this kit. So now that we've got the firmware updated, we've got it activated, we're going to go over some basic functionality of the drone and how to use it. Now, as mentioned, when flying the Neo 2, you do not need to connect it to your smartphone. We can adjust all the parameters with these buttons here on the side. But connecting it to the Fly app while using it autonomously, it's going to give you some extra benefits. It's going to give you a visual preview of what you're filming. It allows you to easily change settings on the fly. And it gives you a few extra features such as return to home, things that you just don't have access to if you're using the drone autonomously. So it just depends on what you're doing, what you're filming. You may want to fly it with just the drone only, or you may want to connect it to the Fly app. So I'm going to go ahead here and we're going to connect the two. So we're going to power the drone on. Then we're going to go ahead and launch our DJI Fly app. And just like before, at the side here of the Fly app, it's detecting our Neo 2. So we can tap on it to connect. We'll hit join. And then it's going to go ahead and launch the Fly app. The Fly app has a really nice layout. At the bottom here, you can see we have 3 different tabs. We have album. This is going to show us content that's currently stored on the internal memory. We can go into them, we can preview the content, and we can also download them to our device, which we will take a look at later on in the video. The next item here is control. That's basically all the control settings for the Neo, which we'll take a look at here in a second. And then over on the very right-hand side, we have our settings. We can adjust settings for all the different flight modes, such as droney, for example. We can tap on it. We can adjust the distance, the height, and there's some more settings down at the bottom that we can adjust. We can go into video, set our resolution and frame rate, set our options if we're taking photos. We can manage our storage. For example, it shows us how much storage we have, but that also allows us to format it if we want to just clear everything off. Just make sure that if you do format it, you have everything downloaded, as that will delete everything permanently. But let's go back to control here, because this is the main interface that you're going to be using while flying the DJI Neo 2. At the top here, it's going to give us our battery percentage. You can see my battery is actually pretty low, the one that's installed there right now. We have 25%. And beside that, it says 000. But if we were flying the drone's up in the air, it'll tell us how much flight time we have left. And it also gives us our signal strength right beside it. Now that red icon beside that is our sensing system, our obstacle avoidance. Right now it's red because we're not up in the air. As soon as we put the drone up, that'll change, telling us that obstacle avoidance is enabled. Now here on the screen, we have our visual preview. That's going to give us a visual preview of what we're filming. And we can actually film in vertical mode by tapping that button there. As you can see, it's going to crop the video and it's going to record a vertical format video. So if you're filming for social media, that might be something you may want to turn on. Or you can just film in regular landscape and do your own cropping later on. Right here is voice control, and I'm actually going to make a separate video about that. That should be up in the next day or two, or it actually might be uploaded already. The Neo 2 supports gesture control and voice control, and it actually works quite well. But that's how we would give it a voice command in order to perform a task. Over here we have our gesture control option. We can enable and disable gesture controls. And for all the different flight modes, like right now you can see I'm in follow. At the sides it allows us to set the distance and height. So right now I'm filming flat, which is kind of middle of the road, but we can turn it to high, or we can put it to low. And on the left hand side here, right now it's set to far, so it's going to follow us from a far distance, but we can set that to medium or close. Now, as mentioned, we're in follow mode and it's listed follow there, but we can tap on that and that's going to list all the different available modes. You can see we have manual control, follow, cycle follow, master shots, droney. So these are all the different intelligent flight modes that the drone can do. And if we tap on one of them, it's going to switch into that mode. And the controls that you get for each mode will be a little bit different. For example, if I go back to follow now, you can see we get this wheel there in the middle. That allows us to set what direction we want the drone to track us from. We can have it from the front, front left, the back, right, or left. So we can adjust that on the fly while the drone is tracking us. If I go to circle, you can see the options are a little bit different. It just gives us a start button, but it does give us an option to adjust some of the parameters. We can set how far we want the circle around us to be, and if we want it from a flat point of view or low point of view. To get out of that, we just touch that arrow, and that takes us back to the main page. So once you have your parameter set, you can either press the button here on the side, that will launch the drone out of the palm of your hand, or we could actually hit the start button there as well. Now, while performing some of these intelligent flight modes, if you're using the drone only, you do not have it connected to the Fly app, the drone is in complete control. You have no control over it. So it's going to be using its obstacle avoidance to make sure it doesn't run into anything. So for example, if you're doing a droney where the drone is flying backwards away from you, it's going to be constantly monitoring to make sure it doesn't run into anything. If it does detect an obstacle, it'll come to a stop, or it will try and bypass around it. And we can actually adjust some of the behaviors of the obstacle avoidance by going to our settings here. We'll tap on more settings, and you can see at the top we have flight assistant. We can have it set to bypass. That's where it's going to try and find a safe route around the obstacle. We can set it to brake, so if it comes to an obstacle, it's just going to come to a complete stop. Or we can turn it off altogether. Now, as a beginner pilot, I don't recommend that, but there are times where you may need to do that, because sometimes you might be trying to film something very specific. That obstacle avoidance can sometimes be more of a hindrance. It doesn't allow you to get as close to an obstacle that you may want to get. So if you do turn that off, make sure you do that with extreme caution, as the drone could potentially run into an obstacle. Now, the other thing we can do with our smartphone, instead of using the intelligent flight modes, the autonomous modes, we can actually select manual control. Once we hit the takeoff button, we're going to get some virtual joysticks on the screen. And when we go out to do a test flight, I will demonstrate that. Using manual control with your smartphone and virtual joysticks, it'll kind of replicate a traditional drone flight if you want to capture some cinematic shots. Now, if that's something that you want to do a lot of, I definitely highly recommend picking up a controller. You're going to have better control and more precision with physical sticks. And on top of that, you're going to have much better range. When you're using the controller with the antennas, you're going to have approximately 10 kilometers of range, what it's rated for. Now, you're never going to be out that far, but you're going to have a good solid connection. If you're just using the virtual joysticks and your smartphone to fly the drone, your range is going to be very limited. I'm not sure of the exact rating, but you're not going to get more than maybe 75 to 100 meters before the feed will start to break up. So it's good for getting close by shots, but definitely if you need range, you're going to want to pick up a controller. Now, if you're going to be out flying with just the Neo, not connected to a smartphone, most of those settings can be adjusted with these buttons here at the side. So again, I'm going to go ahead and power the drone on here. Quick press and then a long press. What you're going to notice here, and I don't know if the camera is going to read it, it'll probably just look like a flicker for you. I'll maybe take a photo of it so you can see. But we have a screen here and it's going to tell us some information about the mode we're in. You can see right now it says we're in follow mode. We're following from the left. It's going to be a far shot and a flat shot. But we can use these back and forth buttons to adjust to the different flight modes.
Cycling follow, master shots, droney, spotlight, circle, rocket, follow.
So we can put it into whatever mode we want just by pressing those buttons there. Now, we can set in the settings right within the DJI Fly app what modes we want to be able to cycle through. So if we only ever use, say, droney and follow, we can set it in the Fly app to only cycle through those two settings. There's an option in the settings where you can customize what will be cycled through. Now, the other thing we can do is adjust some of the parameters. Like, so for example, right now it's set to follow from far. But what we can do is press and hold one of these buttons here. I'm going to press this first button here. I'm going to press and hold. And once I press and hold, you can see that the left button, or where it says it's following us from the left, is now flashing. I can then use those arrows.
Rear left, rear right, right.
You can see I can adjust the angle at which it's following us. Now I'm going to do a single press on the launch button. That'll exit that customizing option. Now let's go back into that. Again, I'm going to press and hold. If I press and hold it again a second time, it's now going to adjust the height. It's moved over to what the height's going to be set at.
High angle, low angle, flat.
And again, if I press and hold again, it's going to go into the middle for the follow distance.
Medium, close, far.
And again, to exit out of that, just press the launch button. So we can adjust the different parameters without having to connect to the Fly app, which is something new with the DJI Neo 2. It doesn't matter what flight mode you're in, you could be in droney, and again, you can adjust some of the parameters. And then of course, when you're ready to launch, all you have to do is press the launch button there on the side while it's in your hand, and the drone will take off and perform the intelligent flight task, which again, we'll demonstrate here in a minute when we go out and do a test flight. Now, I'm just going to show you quickly how it works when you have it connected to your smartphone. So we're going to power the controller on, and we're going to power on the drone. And again, I'm going to launch the DJI Fly app. Now, if you've purchased the Neo 2 with the controller, it's going to automatically be bound and will go ahead and automatically connect. It'll go right into a visual preview. As you can see, mine hasn't connected. So if you've purchased a controller afterwards and you need to bind it, it's actually really simple to do. All you're going to do is tap on Connect to Aircraft. We're going to select the drone that we want to connect to, which in this case is the DJI Neo 2. It's going to ask us to make sure we have the module installed, and as you can see there, I don't. So we'll attach it, we'll screw it in, so we'll tell it that it's installed. Now it's searching for the aircraft. It does this, but it's not going to find it, and that's okay. That's kind of what we want. After it's searched for a little while, you're going to get a message there at the bottom. It says unable to connect to aircraft. So we're going to tap on that. We're again going to tap on where it says aircraft beeped, and then we're going to tap on pair. So the controller is now in pairing mode. You can tell by that beeping sound. So now we'll put the aircraft in pairing mode, and we do so by pressing and holding the power button there. So we'll press and hold it till it beeps. So you can hear the aircraft beep there, and then it went ahead and connected. So we are now connected to the controller, and we can tap on Go Fly. And if you've flown any other DJI drone in the past, it's a very similar interface. Now, I'm not going to go over the DJI Fly interface in this video, but when we go out for a test flight here in a minute, I will demonstrate how to use it. So with all that said, let's head out and I'll demonstrate how to use some of these features. All right, so we're out now and we're going to do some test flights, and I'm going to demonstrate a few things here for you. Now, it's a good idea as a beginner, if this is your first drone, make sure you do some research about the drone regulations in your country. Every country has slightly different drone regulations. The other thing I recommend as a new pilot is when you go for your first flight and you're going to take it out, make sure you're in a nice open area with not a lot of people. Where I am right now might not be the best location for a first flight if you're brand new, just because there are a lot of obstacles. Now, the Neo 2 does have obstacle avoidance, but you shouldn't really rely on it totally. Obstacle avoidance is pretty accurate, but it's not perfect, especially this time of year where the leaves are falling off the trees. Those thin branches or ghost branches can be very hard to detect by obstacle avoidance. Same with wires, so you do have to be very careful. So it's good to have a nice open area with not a lot of people. So I'm going to demonstrate a few different ways in which you can utilize your Neo 2, and we're going to start out with the autonomous mode. That means we're just going to be using it, no controller, we're not connected to a smartphone. We're just going to use the buttons on the side here, set our parameters, and then launch the intelligent flight mode. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to power the Neo 2 on. So as we demonstrated earlier, we can use these buttons to cycle through the different intelligent flight modes.
Follow, rocket, circle, spotlight, droney, master shot.
And it will preview the mode there on that front LCD screen. Now, we can adjust what flight modes are included when we cycle through, but we do have to be connected to the Fly app, and I will demonstrate that once we do connect our phone. So right now I have it set to spotlight. Essentially, that's where the drone is just gonna float up in the air, and it's gonna stay locked onto us, so as we move around, the drone is going to keep filming us. So when you're ready, make sure you hold the drone level. You want the camera facing you because the camera needs to lock onto a human subject, otherwise it will give you an error. And when you're ready, all you're gonna do is press that red button there on the side. Just a quick single press. So for example, we'll just touch it.
Spotlight. 3, 2, 1.
So as you can see, it's hovering there in front of us. And as I move around, the drone is moving and it's going to stay locked onto us. So that's great for some vlogging, and if you just want to film yourself stationary, it's a great option to use. And the drone will automatically start recording in autonomous mode as soon as you launch it, so you don't have to worry about hitting any type of record button. When you're done and you're ready to land the drone, all you do is have to simply put your hand out underneath it, and the drone is just going to go ahead and land. Now we can change the mode. Let's put it to droney.
Circle. Rocket. Follow. Cycling follow. Master shots. Droney.
So we've just set it to droney, and right now it's set to 10 meters and it's set to rise. We could set it to a farther distance, to 20 meters, or we could have it go out just flat so it just flies straight out. But let's do the 10-meter rise. Now it's important again when using these autonomous features, although it does have obstacle avoidance, so if it's flying and it comes across an obstacle like a tree, the drone will come to a stop and then return back to you. But it's just a good idea to visually look around and send it in the direction where there's no obstacles. So I'm going to send it that way. There is some obstacles, but at 10 meters it shouldn't hit them. So again, now I'm just going to press on the side there.
10 meters. Droney. 3, 2, 1.
So the drone is now moving back. It's performing the droney. Again, it's automatically started recording. Once it gets to the 10 meters, it's going to stop recording, and then it will restart recording on the way back down. And here it comes now. And again, just like before, you just simply have to put your hand out and the drone will just go ahead and automatically land. So it's really easy to use, especially if you want to use it for following. I just put it in follow mode, press the button.
Follow. 3, 2, 1.
So now I have it set to follow us from the rear. And it'll just follow us along, no issues at all. Now, if we had it connected to our smartphone, we could actually change the angle on the fly while it's following us. If we want it to say follow us from the side or from the front, we could have done that. But when you're using it autonomously without a controller, you would have to set the parameter of what angle you want to follow you from before you launch it. And again, when you're done, hand out and it will just go ahead and land. Now, as I demonstrated earlier, we could use these back and forth buttons to cycle through and change some of those parameters. So if we wanted it following us from the front or a close distance, we could easily change that with those buttons. So now the next way we could fly it, we're still going to be flying autonomously without a controller, but we can connect it to the Fly app, and that allows us to change all our parameters nice and easily on the fly. It also gives us a visual preview. So for example, we're under control. You can see right now it's currently set to follow, but we can change that. That's going to list all the different flight parameters, or the flight modes I should say. So we can tap on droney. Down at the bottom there, we can set our parameters. 20 meters, 6 meters, 4 meters, flat. So we can set it to whatever we want. Close that. We can again hit the button on the side there, or we can hit the start button here on the screen.
3, 2, 1.
And again, it's just going to go ahead and perform the droney. But this way, you can see there, we're getting a visual preview. The other thing we can do right on the screen there is we could hit stop. So if we see it flying back into an obstacle, we could actually stop it and then send the drone home, which I'll show you how to do here in a second. So let's go ahead and do that, but this time I'm going to do an emergency stop, and I'm actually going to set it to 20 meters just so we have some more distance that we can work with. So we'll start the drone.
Meters. Droney. 3, 2, 1.
So the drone is moving along there, and say as we're flying, we're like, oh, it's going to hit a tree. I can hit stop, And that's going to make the drone come to a complete stop, and it's just going to sit there and hover. Now from here, in this situation, we have two things we can do. If you notice there, it says use virtual joystick. I can tap on that, and while the drone is sitting up there hovering, I can maneuver it a little bit. You can see I just raised it, lower it, so we can move it out of the way of the obstacle, and then we can bring it back to us either manually with the joysticks, or the other thing we can do is hit return to home. You can see that icon right there. We'll tap on it. We can actually select it to land, or we can do return to home. So we're going to press and hold on that. So now the drone is going to come back to us. And you can see it gives us a virtual line of the path that the drone is going to take. So that way you know it's coming back to you in a safe manner. And again, during the return to home, if you think it's going to hit something, you can always hit the stop button. So connecting to your phone is very beneficial in some situations because you can change things on the fly very easily, but you do have to carry it. So there are some situations where you don't want it connected to the phone, and there's going to be other situations where that will be beneficial. Now the last way we can fly it is true manual, and we can use virtual joysticks. So we can tap there to bring up all our different flight modes, but this time I'm going to tap on manual control. You can see we get a takeoff button that comes up. You can see we can tap there and set some of our flight parameters, our resolution, the frame rate. When you're ready to take off, you just have to hit start, press and hold on it. And as you can see there, the drone is going to take off. And I'm just going to remove that leaf that stuck to it. There we go. So in this mode, essentially it's like flying a traditional drone, except instead of using a controller, we're going to be using virtual joysticks. So we can move the drone forward, we can rotate it, we can raise it up, lower it down, and we can try and grab some nice cinematic shots. Now the only thing to keep in mind when using virtual joysticks, you're not going to have as much precision as you will with physical sticks, but it can allow you to easily capture some nice cinematic footage when you don't have a controller with you. The other thing we can do here is change the camera angle by using this button here on the side. You can see we can turn it down, turn it up. So you'll be able to adjust the camera according to what you're filming. And the other thing we can do is actually rotate the phone. Right now you can see the phone is vertical and the layout of the Fly app is vertical. But we can tap on this button here. And now you can see it's going to give us a horizontal layout. That's going to give you a bigger preview of what you're filming. And it might be a little bit easier to control the drone. Now, as we talked about earlier in this video, if you want to film in a vertical format for social media, and I'm not talking about the orientation of the phone, but if you want to film in true vertical, we can tap that button there. As you can see, it's going to give us a preview of what it's going to be capturing. It's going to be capturing in that vertical format there. And just like before, we could do a return to home, and the drone is going to come back to us. And when you're ready to land, all you have to do is simply put your hand out, and it will go ahead and land in your hand, or you could have used the landing and takeoff button there on the side. Now, one other thing I want to show you here quickly before we move on, and that's to do with what modes are included with the drone when you're cycling through in complete autonomous mode. So for example, let's bring up all our different flight modes. And you can see at the bottom there it says customize modes. So right now at the very top, that's what is on the drone when we use those cycling buttons there to cycle through what kind of shot we want to do. So right now in mine I have follow, cycle following, master shots, droney, spotlight, circle, and rocket. But say I want to add dolly zoom to that, I can just simply drag it up. So now when I use these buttons,
Dolly zoom.
you can see dolly zoom has been added to it. So that can be handy because there might only be 3 different modes that you're ever going to use. So you may only want to have 3 listed in there, and that way while you're cycling through, it's easy to get to the mode that you want to get to. All right, so I've shown you how you can fly completely autonomously without a controller and how to connect it to your smartphone. So you can change settings, launch some of the intelligent flight modes, and fly it manually with virtual joysticks. So now I'm going to do a quick demonstration on how to fly it with a controller. Now, before you can fly it with a controller, as mentioned, we do have to have that transmission module attached to the back, otherwise it will not connect. So we're going to get things set up here. We'll attach our sticks. We'll pull out the antenna, pull out the data cable. We'll mount our smartphone. We're going to power on the controller. We're going to power on our Neo 2. Now I'm going to go and set it out in front of me on a landing pad here. You don't have to use a landing pad, just if you're going to be taking off from surfaces like this, wet grass, long grass, but you can just launch it even when flying it with a controller right from the palm of your hand. So we've got everything set up here. So what we're going to do is now launch the DJI Fly app. Now before we take off, we want to make sure we're connected to satellites and a home point has been set. You can see at the top here, it's going to show us our satellite count. Right now we're connected to 10. It's flashing red because we don't have enough to set a home point. As soon as it achieves, I think it's about 12 or 13, you'll hear an audible message that a home point has been set. And I'll show you how to check that here once we've connected. Now, it can take anywhere from 30 seconds up to a couple minutes to get enough satellites. Right now, it's taking a while because I'm in and amongst trees. If you're around a lot of obstacles, buildings, it's going to take longer to connect to satellites. So you just have to be patient. It's a good idea not to rush it because in order for the drone to come home in a fail-safe disconnect, if you've lost connection, it needs to know an accurate location of where the home point is. On top of that, a good satellite connection will keep the drone stable up in the air. Now, one little tip here, if you find it's really sluggish connecting to satellites because you have a lot of obstacles around you, just hovering it up in the air a little bit, put it up about 5 feet, 10 feet, can sometimes speed up that process.
Home point updated.
So you probably heard there, we got an audible message that the home point has been updated. And we can bring up our maps here down in the bottom left-hand corner. And you can see we have this big yellow H now. That is the home point, it's been set. The triangle is the drone, and that blue circle is us. That's where the controller is. Our satellites are still bouncing around there. They'll get a little higher once they get up in the air, but we do have a home point set. So now we can take off, and there's actually two different ways in which we can take off. We can use the takeoff button there on the side of the screen, or we can do a series of stick commands, and I'll show you both. The first one, we'll tap on the screen there, the takeoff button. You can see we get this pop-up box. Now we can just press and hold that. You can see the drone is starting up. And now it just launched, and it's going to sit there and hover until we give it an input on the sticks. It's going to hover at about 1 meter off the ground. To land, when you're close to the ground, you can use that same button. It turns into a landing button. You can see we can tap on it. And it will go ahead and land. Now, if we were out flying, say we were a couple hundred meters away, if we hit that landing button, it would actually give us two options, which I'll demonstrate here in a minute. It would give us the option to land in place or return to home. So I'll demonstrate that once we get up and flying. Now, the other way we can launch it is manually, and we can do that by pressing the sticks down and either pushing them in or pulling them to the side. So I'm going to push the sticks down, push them in. Now, the motors have just started, but the drone hasn't taken off yet. In order to launch the drone, put it up in the air, we're just going to push a little bit up on the left stick. And there it is. You can see it's just going to go and hover again. And we can land it manually that way as well. If we were up in the air and we were to pull down on the left stick, that's just going to raise and lower the altitude. But if we're close to the ground like it is right now, I can press down on the stick, the left stick, and it's going to go ahead and land. So let's go ahead here, and I'm going to put the drone up. Now, it's a little breezy today, so I'm not going to go too far. The Neo 2 does not too bad in the wind, but you do have to be cautious, especially if you're flying with the wind on the way out. Sometimes coming back with, or against the wind, I should say, can be a little tricky. So we'll just put the drone up here. So now a couple things I just want to point out to you here quickly. You can see at the bottom left-hand side, that's going to give us some information about our distance, the speed at which we're traveling, and our height. So really important to keep an eye on that, just to make sure you're following regulations in your country. The other thing at the top there, it gives us our battery percentage. You can see we have 80% left in the battery. We can tap on that, and that's going to give us some more information about when the drone is going to automatically return to home because the battery is getting too low. While the drone is flying, it's going to be constantly calculating how much power it thinks it needs to get back safely. And those numbers will adjust as you're flying around and as the battery is depleted. And beside that, we actually have a numerical number, and it's telling us that we have approximately 9 minutes, 10 seconds, 7 seconds left of flight. Beside that, we have our RC strength. Again, important to keep an eye on that. If you get out too far or there's some obstacles in between the controller and the drone, that will turn to orange and then to red when you're about to be disconnected. Over here, we have all our options for changing settings. If we want to capture video, capture photos, that's how we would do that. And down at the bottom right-hand side is where we can adjust all our flight parameters, such as 4K 30. We could record at 4K 60. We can even access more settings by switching it to Pro mode. From there, we can adjust all our parameters, such as ISO, shutter speed, if you want to get a little bit creative. So I'm just going to send the drone a little bit of ways here, not too far because it is windy today. You can see we're getting a strong wind warning there on the screen. But I just want to demonstrate the return to home. Now, if we want to return to home manually, we can press the button there right on the controller, or we can tap this button here. You can see it says land and return to home. Obviously, we don't want it to land where it is. So I'm going to tap the return to home. And the drone is going to show this virtual line showing the path it's going to take. And it's a good idea to keep an eye on that just in case. It does have obstacle avoidance, but it's a good idea to keep an eye on it and be prepared to stop it if need be. You can do so by tapping that red X there or by hitting the pause button there on the controller. So the drone is now going to come home approximately where it took off from. Now you can see it's a little bit off the landing pad. You can see where the landing pad is, and there's the drone coming down. So that's where you do have to be prepared to stop it, because sometimes it's going to be fairly accurate, but sometimes it's going to be off a little bit. Now, I'm just going to show you a few stick commands. You can see the drone is hovering out there in front of us. Maybe I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it better. It's a pretty small drone. So with the sticks here, this right stick does 2 maneuvers. If we push forward, you can see the drone's going to move forward. If we pull back, the drone is going to move back. The other thing we can do is side to side. So as you see, when I push the stick to the left, the drone moves to the left. If I pull it to the right, the drone moves to the right. The left stick over here controls our altitude and rotation. So for example, if I push the stick up, you can see the drone is rising. If I pull it down, the drone is going to lower. So that's how you adjust the altitude. The other thing we can do with it is rotate it. So as I pull the stick to the left, you can see the drone is spinning to the left. As I push it to the right, the drone is going to spin to the right. And as you get good and you get more experience, you can use a combination of both sticks to get some really dynamic movements. And that's just going to come with practice. Now, one thing you do have to be very cautious of, right now, the drone is facing away from us, so the camera's pointed away from us. So when I go left to right, you can see the drone moves accordingly. Push the stick to the left, the drone moves left. Pull the stick to the right, the drone moves right. But what can happen, especially as a new pilot, your orientation can get kind of a little backwards when the drone is facing you. So I'm going to put the drone towards us now. And as you can see, when I pull the stick right, the drone is actually moving left. So you do have to be cautious of that. But again, that will come with experience and practice. So that was just a basic look at flight with the Neo 2 when using a controller. Now, just a couple more things here before I go. As a new pilot, you might feel some anxiety flying for the first time. If you've never flown one, you're not quite sure how it's going to behave up in the air. Just keep your flights close by. You don't have to go too far or too high. Just get a good feel of how it maneuvers. As I mentioned, find a nice open field, and that way you don't have to worry about running into anything. And you'll find that quickly that anxiety will start to fade once you develop some faith in the equipment. And DJI drones are really reliable. They have a lot of safety features. If you're out flying and you get too far with the controller and it disconnects, don't panic. The drone is going to automatically come home to you And that's why it's important to make sure you have a good home point set before you start flying. The other thing is, if you get into a tricky situation, like say you get the drone up in some bushes or a tree, again, don't panic, just let go of the sticks. The GPS will hold the drone perfectly in spot. That allows you to get your composure, assess the situation, figure out the orientation of the drone, and then you'll be able to maneuver it out of that position. Now, there's still a lot to learn with the Neo that I didn't cover in this video. So again, I highly recommend, if this is a drone you're interested in, this is going to be your first drone, consider subscribing, as I will be making a lot of tutorials and demonstrations, diving in deeper to some of the specific features, which could be helpful if you're brand new to drones. So now I'm going to head back to my desk and I'm going to show you how to transfer the content off the Neo over to your smartphone, tablet, or even computer. So we've gone over a lot in this video, but there's one more thing I want to demonstrate here before I go, and that's getting the content over from your DJI Neo 2 to your smartphone or tablet. Now, I'm going to be demonstrating on my iPhone, but this works the same way on Android devices, or if you have the DJI Fly app downloaded to a tablet. Now, there's actually two different methods in which we can transfer our content. One is by using the DJI Fly app to transfer the content wirelessly over. The other is by plugging the Neo directly into the device. And plugging it in is really the only way if you want to transfer it to a traditional laptop or desktop. You can plug the Neo in to a USB-C port, and essentially it'll become like a drive, and I will demonstrate that here in a second. But let's go ahead and we're going to power on our Neo, and then we're going to launch the DJI Fly app. Then we're going to connect to the Neo. We'll join the Wi-Fi network. From the main page here, we're going to tap on Album. And this is going to display all the content that's stored on the internal memory. We can click on any file, we can tap play and preview it, we can scrub through it. Just keep in mind when you're watching it through the Fly app, it's just a low-res preview, so it's not going to be the high-definition video. And from here, we can just tap this download arrow at the bottom there, and that's going to allow us to download the footage. We can do a full download or a trimmed download. Full download will download the whole raw file. A trim download, you can set the in and out points, so there might just be a small clip, a small section of a video that you want to download. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to tap on full download. You can see there, it might be hard to see on camera, but it gives us a little progress bar. If we go back to the main page, up here it gives us some progress information as well. Once the file has been completely downloaded, that now gives you the option to share it directly. You can see it gives us some options built right in there. Now, the other thing we can do is batch downloading. So say there's a whole bunch of files, you've got 20 or 30 files you want to download. We can tap that check mark there, and that allows us to go in and select multiple files at once. We can even batch select by date, just by tapping there. And once you have all the files selected that you want to download, again, you just hit the download button there at the bottom right-hand side. So that was method number one. Now method number two is by plugging the drone directly into the device. And this again works on iPhones, iPads, other tablets that have USB-C ports. And for the most part, this is how you'll transfer footage to a more traditional desktop or laptop. And the nice thing about using this method is we don't even have to power the drone on. In fact, you don't even need to have a battery in the drone. When we plug it in, we'll attach a USB-C cable. You can use the USB-C cable that came with the Neo 2. Plug it into the back of the drone into the USB-C port, and then we'll plug it into the USB-C port of the device in which we're transferring to. Now on my iPad here, I'm going to use the Files app. And if we go to our locations, you can see when we have the Neo attached, we get this new location there called internal storage. The drone's not powered on, and in fact, there's no battery even installed. We can tap on that. And as you can see, here are all the files. So just like moving any files around on an iPad or iPhone, we can just select them and then transfer them over to the internal storage. When using this method, you're going to be transferring the files to the Files app. When using the DJI Fly app, all the files get stored in the Photos app. I'm not an Android user, so I don't know exactly how that works, but it should be very similar. And again, if you want to transfer your footage over to a laptop or desktop, you simply just have to plug the USB-C cable into a USB-C port on your computer. Now, as mentioned, I will be making other tutorials and doing other demonstrations, including FPV, flying the Neo 2 with FPV. So if this is a drone that you are interested in and you want to learn more about, Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of those videos. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it had value. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.